You're listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast
with Doc Dylan
and Brandy.
We empower high performers with a 3-part strategy of hope,
Self-agency, goals, and proven frameworks
so that you can reach your potential
and the highest quality of life. How's it going? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Hope Not Nope podcast. This episode is featured restart. How's it going? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Hope Not Nope podcast. A podcast listener named Derek asked us, what?
D-Rock.
Derek.
D-Rock.
Okay. He asked us this question. I saw scrolling on social media before lifting can make you weaker. Is there any truth to that?
Don't weaken. D-Rock, don't weaken.
Where does D-Rock come from?
I don't know. It just popped up.
Okay. Naturally.
Yeah.
A goofball.
It's one of my very many gifts is coming up with nicknames.
Fair.
That one is not a great one. I would take it further.
I will say, I feel like you have like 45 nicknames that you call me on a regular basis. And none of them are the classic like hun or babe or anything like that. Like you're not about that, but like goofy ones, all about.
Example, Brandana.
Yeah.
That's a great one. But to answer the question, I want to start out broad and then kind of work our way in to the answer of where the research is with this. So the broad answer is the first thing that I care about is, are you working out? Or are you in the gym getting after it or walking? Or are you doing some type of activity? Like number one, because we can hear this and just go, okay. And we'll get into all the different nuances of it. But I know plenty of business owners that when they work out in between sets, they're answering emails. Mm-hmm. And they're just in a busy season of life, and that's the time that they have, but they're still making opportunities to get to the gym and get after it. So, you know, what's the biggest inhibitor to gains not working out at all, or potentially being on your phone during a workout? You know, if it's mindless scrolling, well, okay, let's talk about that. But it's not an episode of like, hey, if you're in a busy season of life and you have to answer emails, or you have a social media business and you're answering comments and stuff on the phone, and that is the only time that you have to do that, like, okay, there can be a debate made.
Yeah, there's almost like you're using your rest breaks in between lifts as like efficiently as possible.
Right.
That could be an argument.
Yeah, if you're in a very busy season of life and you've looked at your schedule and there's just nothing else that can be trimmed or changed, like, understand. Like, got that. But then I get into the question too of, are you working out or are you training? I think in one of our previous episodes, we were talking about traveling in Italy and faith being front facing. And, you know, I don't tend to go on our podcast or other ones and make like bold statements, but I think this one I will, that as Christians, we all need to be training, not working out. Working out is of the world. Working out is to look good. Working out is for aesthetics. Training is precise. Training has a focus. Training has an aiming point. We are training and physically preparing our flesh to be able to carry out the will that he has for our life, which for each of us is going to be different, which means each of our physical training is going to be different. We also need to be training our soul or our spirit and nourishing our soul to do this as well. But as Christians, all of us should be training to physically be able to carry out the mission that he has for us. And that's different than just going to work out to feel good. Right. And for each person, it can be different. Some like, is it lifting weights? Is it Zumba? Is it walking? Like whatever that thing is that you're drawn to, just as long as has some type of foundation of science based on it, and that it's not going to lead you to injury, and that it has progressive overload in it, and it hits all the foundational things in strength and conditioning, then cool. Right. So back to the question of, I'm going to rephrase it now and say, will scrolling on social media inhibit your training? That cool?
Sure.
D-Rock's cool with that?
Yeah, he's cool with it.
All right. So does it inhibit your training? Well, it depends on what the training looks like, but I'm going to go to what the research has shown so far, because research has studied this to see what is happening when you are training, and that training involves lifting weights and swimming and some other things of what happens. So what the research shows is that scrolling before doing a heavy max lift doesn't seem to have any effect. Whether net positive or net negative, just seems to be pretty neutral with it. When we get to things that are more high rep sets, not 1 rep or 3 rep max, but more things of like your 6 to 12 to 15 to 20 rep range, that scrolling tends to show a decrease in bar velocity speed
Mm.
in those higher rep ranges compared to when you don't scroll and go do that. Okay, so why does that potentially happen? Well, if it happens with scrolling, but then it doesn't happen when you're not scrolling, we can't say that it's a physical muscle trait that's bringing on that difference. The only thing that can change is the neural drive to those muscle groups. So what the research tends to find is that scrolling before going to do a high rep set introduces more of a mental fatigue or a neural fatigue that then carries over when you go to do that workout or that training set.
Mm-hmm.
So higher rep sets, there tends to be a decrease in the bar velocity speed and how well you're moving the bar or how much ease you're able to move or speed you're able to move it with.
Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like, hey, if you're distracting yourself prior to a big rep lift,
Mm-hmm.
your focus isn't going to be on the lift, it's going to be on whatever you're distracting yourself with.
Yeah.
So then, in order to transition from distraction to focus, your brain doesn't, I guess, like fire as quickly.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And there's interesting research like this is all stuff that happens before you do a set. And they're looking and starting to see this variable of mental fatigue, which we'll just say neural fatigue. So then they looked and said, is it because of cognitive load that we start to see this effect? And is it because of scrolling, or is there other tasks that would introduce the same thing to happen? So instead of scrolling or with scrolling, they also compared it to things like a Stroop task or a mental task, basically, of like, hey, this thing's going to come up on a screen and I need you to find uh, the one that has the background color blue, not the word blue, and find that on the screen. Um, Puzzles, crosswords, just as examples of things that
Mm-hmm.
can cognitively fatigue us.
Sudoku.
Sudokus,
Yeah.
yeah. So those types of things were also compared in it, and it found that yeah, those didn't create as much of a cognitive mental fatigue as scrolling did.
Mm.
And then they looked at, well, what about phone use for music or music and scrolling? And the group that was music and scrolling tended to have that fatigue factor that happened during their training sets.
Mm.
So it always went back to this variable of not just cognitive fatigue, but the specific fatigue that happens from scrolling on your phone. And I think that makes sense. We won't go into it too far, but it's like you're getting so much stimulus in a short period of time. Within a minute, think of how much input you're getting just by scrolling,
Mm.
whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, of how much you take in that little period of time, of how much that can do to the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So that was between sets. And then research has looked at the chronic effect of scrolling for, X amount of weeks, and how does that impact your training goals? Does it affect your ability to reach goals? How does it affect your perception? And to no surprise, the people that were doing that reported mental fatigue, and there's a decreased likelihood that they were going to reach their long-term goals because of that fatigue
Wow.
that was brought on. So what do we do with all of this, right? Made the earlier statement that if you're just in a busy season of life and you're answering emails and you have a social media business, you're answering comments, and it has to happen during your training session, there's absolutely no other time to do it. The bigger benefit is that you keep doing some sort of training versus completely getting rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're asking me, how do I create the best possible training session to get the most out of it given my goals? Don't scroll,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't scroll before, don't scroll during. Like set that time aside where you can go in and be focused and precise. And the other thing that was interesting too is the research showed that in between sets when people scrolled, they would report that the training felt harder and less enjoyable.
Wow.
Same training stimulus, just if they scrolled, it was less enjoyable and harder with no other variable change other than scrolling or not scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Like less enjoyable sticks out to me the most, like, yeah, feels harder. Like that happens day to day with fluctuations of life, but like less enjoyable simply because you're mentally fatigued because you were scrolling and were not aware that that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're aware. So change it.
Yeah.
Like don't go into a thing and make it less enjoyable. And the fact of it being less enjoyable, not because of the workout itself or the training session itself, but being less enjoyable because of another factor that does not have to be related to that thing. And I won't go too far into it, but how much does that relate to other factors
Mm-hmm.
in our life? I think we live in this very kind of burnout, fatigued society.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't happen overnight. There's something introduced into society that then changes that. And I'm not saying like, in fashion, we see this all the time of like when I was in fifth grade, Air Force Ones were like the coolest shoe. And if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have Air Force Ones, like you weren't cool. So you had to have Air Force Ones. And back a few years ago, like niece and nephews start wearing Air Force Ones.
Right.
Friends have Air Force Ones. And I'm like, are these cool again? Like, is this it? Am I old enough now
They're back, baby.
that I've gotten through this full revolution of what was once cool that's not cool anymore is now cool again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
Welcome to being in your 30s.
Wow, like crazy, it's happening. And now there's other stuff coming back that I'm like, those were definitely not
Those
cool.
were not cool.
Like
Now
that
they're
was when
cool.
I was growing up, but they weren't cool.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to make it cool and it's still not cool.
So true.
But I'm starting to notice more and more of this trend and I'm like, I think the flip phone's coming back.
Oh, it is.
Like Razer, the like founder owner of Razer, I think was putting out stuff of like the new era,
Mm-hmm.
like Razer phone, to stop to combat doom scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, pretty soon it's going to be more common. I don't think it's going to be the norm, but it's going to
Yeah.
be more common that people have flip phones and not the jitterbug one,
Right.
but like younger individuals having a flip phone
Mm-hmm.
to be able to hopefully change the fatigue factor that we're seeing across society. And again, that was the research on the training. That was more of just my perspective on looking
Mm-hmm.
and seeing individuals in society. But
Well, I've also seen that cameras are coming back.
mm,
Like, not that they ever left, but like a lot of people bring not just Polaroid cameras, but like film cameras or digital cameras. Like I remember not having a cell phone in middle school, but having a little camera that I would go around and take photos with. And like that's like a thing again, which is wild. I do have a question though, based on the research, and this is for my own personal training because what I've found is my retention is dumpy.
mhm,
And so between sets, I will go to my phone to look to see what's upcoming.
mhm.
But that in a sense of is a distraction of like, oh, let me click the box of okay, I just did this one set. What's the next thing? Do you know if there's a research saying, hey, just have it written out in front of you as
Mm.
opposed to going to your phone to like because I feel like I waste time where I could just be sitting and like focusing on the next set that's coming up by going on my phone and scrolling through what's the workout, but then I don't retain it and I have to go back between each one anyways. And so is it better to actually write it down? Do I just need to work on retention better? Or like is that considered like I wonder what they considered scrolling in the
Mhm.
research of like it has to be on a social media network
Yeah.
and almost like doom scrolling as opposed to does emails count as scrolling?
Mhm.
Does scrolling through the actual workout that you're doing count as scrolling? Like
Right.
do you know that?
Yeah. So I'm gonna take what the research has shown and put thoughts to it based off of that. So they've compared what scrolling does. So yes, it was social media accounts and scrolling through it. And they also looked at, music
Hmm.
and choosing music, and they saw that there was a different effect from that. So now I'm going to take those results and look at like, hey, if I'm using a training app that has my workout on it, I'm going on that app to see what my next set is, to see if the weight I should be prescribed at, see if there's any coaching notes. I don't think that's going to have the same effect of fatigue as doom scrolling would.
Yeah, it's less of a distraction.
The biggest thing is that when you're choosing music to work out to, it is focused towards your workout,
Hmm.
right? It's something I do. Like, hey, I'm going for a big lift. Like, what kind of song do I want right
Switch up
now?
the
Yeah, what
vibe.
kind of vibe we know we're doing like a long distance run. Cool. Like, what vibe is going to help me along that,
Right.
right?
There you go.
So
There
it's
you go.
related to the goal at hand.
Hmm.
Where scrolling, may be related, but most of the time it's not related.
Yeah.
You're going on, you're taking in a bunch of different input that's probably not related to the training session. Um, so when we look at like going onto the app, it's focused towards your training session. The issue is when people then go to the app, look at their workout, and then from the workout, swipe the workout away, go to Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, start scrolling through that, and then go back to the workout.
I have that
So if that is happening, then I
issue.
would say, hey, recognize the pattern and introduce a pattern breaker
Hmm.
to get out of that of catching your thumb, moving apps around on your screen so it's harder to find it. And if you can't combat that, then print it out
Yeah.
because it's different when you're going on looking to see what do I need to be focused on? What am I doing? Versus, okay, I got a little break between my set. Let me see what's going on in the social media world. Scroll, scroll, scroll,
Yeah.
scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, well, that was fatiguing. That was alarming. That upset me. I'm emotional. Maybe I go lift heavier, but I probably don't because now I'm fatigued.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't seen anything like specifically of a written out workout versus going on a phone to do it, but I would imagine that's what the result would show given the trend
Yeah.
that's been shown.
I think it's just easy to be said that the less distracted you are, the less fatigued you become.
Hmm.
If you are more distracted or choosing distractions, you're going to be more mentally neurally fatigued.
Yeah. It's a good gut check too to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm just working out to look good
Yeah.
and aesthetically like okay, but maybe you're doing a gut check and saying like I need to start training.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out like precisely like what are my goals, and I need to start training after that. And I'm gonna gut check myself and see like how focused can I actually do this in. And like focus to me would be that like you're just not scrolling
Hmm.
before your workout or during your sets.
Hmm. Exactly.
Hmm.
Drop the mic.
Yeah. Hope
Hmm.
story time.
Sure. Do you have one?
I don't have one queued up.
You
Do you
don't
have
you
one?
don't have one queued up? I do. I just recently we had the opportunity to go to our neighbors
Mm.
for dinner.
Hmm.
And for me it was just a reminder of like, you get a message or you see your neighbor on the walk and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight? Do you want to come over for dinner?" And it's like we had dinner already like meal prepped or
Hmm.
dinner was available at our home, but to get an invitation to go down the road to your neighbor's house and then her inviting another neighbor that we got to meet because we haven't
Hmm.
even been in this neighborhood for a year now and so we're
Right.
still meeting people and things like that. It was just such a reminder, similar to like the episode when we talked about Italy of how important like family is and community and stuff like that. Like for me that hope story was so special because it's so special to have just a neighbor that's like, "Hey, come over for dinner tonight.
Hmm.
Here's this other neighbor. Come over for dinner." And I think that if you live in a rural community, you don't always get that. If you live in the suburbs, I know the suburbs that we lived in, we had good neighbors, but I know that sometimes you don't even talk to your neighbors across the
Hmm.
street or next door. And so I just am very thankful and feel very fortunate and blessed that our neighbors just casually text us to come over for dinner. And the meal is always good
So
because
good.
they cook like it's not like it's pre-packaged like frozen hamburgers or anything
Hmm.
like that. Like we've gone a couple times now and it's like great pasta,
Hmm.
homemade sauce, homemade veggies, awesome dessert, homemade garlic bread, like all like it's been a great time.
Yeah.
It's been a great
Yeah.
time.
And hey, I'm not putting down burgers. If you want to have us over for some burgers, I'll slam some burgers.
Also that. Love some burgers. Love some burgers. That is true. I'm just saying it's been great like home cooked meals
Yeah.
and a switch up from what like we typically cook ourselves as well, which is really cool. So that's my little hope story.
Oh, I love it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it was too quick for me to think of a hope story because I was so locked into the social media and training
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like so locked in there. The hope story wasn't sitting in the brain, but
I suppose we
I'll
could
come
have
back strong.
yeah, I suppose we could have chosen a hope story that was more focused on like training as opposed to this, but I don't know. To me, I was like excited to share that one. So
Yeah, no, that's a great hope story. And it's part of the training package, right?
yeah, fuel up.
Community.
Have community, fuel up.
Hmm.
Have community, fuel up. Train, community, fuel up.
Nailed it.
Boom.
Well, thank you for listening. Have a great week. And remember, high performance isn't just about using the strategy of hope, it's about becoming hope.
Thank you for listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast. Please subscribe and share this episode. This podcast is for educational and personal development purposes only and is not considered health or medical advice. For personalized support, connect with a Hope Coach at hopenotnope.org.